What is the real story of January 6th? Many people have asked that question.
I don't know. And I don't care. Okay. That was a little introduction song from Band of Sinners, their EP, All the Angels Have Left Us. I talk about my buddy Skeeter or Charles. Almost everyone down here, if you're Creole or Cajun, you get a nickname. His is Skeeter. His name is Charles Lyons. He's a great writer, and we've been making music since we were teenagers. He's got quite a catalog published. Band of Sinners, Cortez Del Mar, Pink Noise, Dressed in Wax. Some of which are featured on the Delta Gold Media channel. Anyways, that song leads into that little intro, 1 minute intro leads into the rest of the EP. It's a beautiful narrative there. So today, and hello everybody, welcome, and Nikarasu, Zinu, Juliana, Mark, Amy, Bebe, Willie Weed, bienvenue, et bonjour, et bonjour. I was up late last night and got up a little late. So if you've ever had one of those days where you wake up late and the day has already preceded you and all of it slaps you in the face like 5 or 6 things, that's kind of what happened. Covert hypnosis. This was one probably in 2018. And I'm so glad I'm done with the cowboy stuff. Welcome care. Yeah, Willie, what up, dude? I got my peppermint tea, and I've already, yeah, you can't see it, I've already smoked about an eighth of this joint. Kind of trying to get right. So, because this is some heavy shit, man. I reviewed these right before. It's about 30 minutes of talking about covert hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, and I shot this at my friend's dojo. He was a drummer, and we were playing in a band together, and he was like, "Hey man, if you need to use the dojo," and I'm like, yeah, sure. I have a huge green screen that I could hang, and that's what I did. So I'm semi-transparent. If you see lines, yeah, it's not a great keying job. But this was an example of the kind of things that I wanted to make at that time. Just life was... I was losing all of my assets. To pay everything off, to pay things, to pay bills, and trying to find what work I could do after I'd lost the job at the post office, trying to drum up any gigs I could find. And as I said in other videos, like the confirmation bias videos, which I almost started, but that's a 3-part thing, and they're already on the channel. I would like to review those, but I don't think I could go through another 3-part self-analysis right now. This one is a little more confrontable, and even though the concepts are all of these were suggested by a user or subscriber named Kaivago. And years ago, this person would leave the most poignant comments to me, and it was almost as if this person was like a professional in helping figure out what the hell I would need to learn in order to sort of unscrew the tight screws of Scientology belief. So let's just go and we will. I will make sure that my mic is always on and all of those good things. Welcome, Xenu. Welcome. Hey, Alex. What's up, my man? Let's roll with it.
Xenu. So, this video is going to be about...
Well, let's maybe not do it at 2 times speed like I was doing it earlier. Maybe let's just do normal speed. Okay. So, yeah, there's that.
Xenu.
Oh, this was in a dojo. It was a very large space, and I didn't have a close enough mic. So, if I need to turn it up, just let me know. I've got it at very low volume here, so it may bleed through the mic. I haven't set my other mic up so to do it proper.
So, this video is going to be about covert hypnosis. It's a continuation of the Kyvago commentaries. And this is, I just want to let you know beforehand, because I did some reading. It led me several different places. And the gist of covert hypnosis is something called Neurolinguistic Programming, otherwise known as NLP. And it is not recognized as a valid form of mind control or hypnosis or anything of the sort at all.
So, what I'm saying here is that from what I'm reading, from what I was reading from the National NIMH Mental Health Organization, and some Wikipedia references, that NLP is not a recognized thing as a like a modality or treatment or anything. And it's considered invalid, but probably not invalid in the sense that they don't, that these organizations don't believe that it exists. It's just that they're not supposed to utilize it. It's an invalid practice. Hi, Dawn. Hey, Irma. All right, you got a new phone. Oh, congrats. And you got your own name back. Well, that is worth a Lulu bark. By the way, thanks everybody for the coffee donations, man. That helps me buy groceries, gas money. Thank you, Tish, Nat, BB, Sandra. Thank y'all for all of that. That's very, very kind, and it does help, and goes, every little bit helps. We're a single income household here. I mean, I do make cash. I've got projects I'm working on, but I'm creative, so it's like my income is wildly fluctuative.
But and I'm not gonna remember the names of the guys who developed it, who did the research and all that stuff. Some of it I may, some of it I may not. But these are the as per always with the Kyvago commentaries. I'm going to do my best to relate it to Scientology and my experience on staff there. Now,
Hey, Chad, I just wanted to say, Chad, thanks for the beautiful footage, man. That was really nice to hear the lake. Uh, be careful, yeah, on the road. Looked like there was some clouds and stuff. And yeah, don't text and drive, bro. Thanks for coming by to say hello.
Before we get started, I do need to read some stuff, some core concepts and main components of what covert hypnosis is, and how some of the factors that affect.
Sounds interesting. Covert hypnosis. So hypnosis is done covertly. Neurolinguistic programming is invalid in mental health, DSM. So far as I know, I should check with my therapist tomorrow. She has DSM. I can have her look it up, but I don't think it's in there. And it's definite. I don't think it's a modality that anyone practices here in the United States, but I could be completely wrong. Uh, let's see. Commodore, Xenu Xenu, welcome.
um, the the power of hypnosis per se are at play here. So we have covert hypnosis, a state of forgetfulness may be elicited by talking about what it feels like to be in that state of manner that implies the other person is currently experiencing it. That's a mouthful of a sentence. So implies the other person is to be in that state of by talking about hypnosis. We have covert hypnosis. A state of forgetfulness may be elicited by talking about what it feels like to be in that state of manner.
Yep.
That implies the other person is currently experiencing it.
So what I said while my mic was up was that I wanted to go back and go through that slower, and maybe once more, because this is a quite a mouthful.
Hypnosis, a state of forgetfulness may be elicited by talking about what it feels like.
Talking about what it feels like. A state of forgetfulness may be elicited by talking about what it feels like.
To be in that state of manner.
To be in that state of manner. That could mean nearly anything.
That implies the other person is currently experiencing it.
That implies the other person is currently experiencing it. So this is sort of this is like gaslighting. You know, oh, you're experiencing this or you're experiencing this, but it's not always gaslighting because it could be related to religious practices or cultural like rituals. All right, now I can probably go back to normal speed. Everybody tracking so far? Yeah, we went through that 3 times.
So, a state of forgetfulness may be elicited by talking about what it feels like to be in that state of a manner that implies that the other person is currently experiencing it. So, the example I would give would be PTSD, or some visual aid, you know.
So, does everyone here know PTSD, the general concept? potential trouble source in Scientology, you are exposed to people, you learn about people that you are exposed to that are suppressive people who are basically evil. And, well, the church says that man's basically good, but a suppressive person is the 2% of the population that is evil. And if you are connected with one, then you become PTS, which means potential trouble source. You get sick. Right, you get sick. You make mistakes. You make bad decisions, etc. So I just wanted to clear that up. We'll roll back just a hair.
Experiencing it. So the example I would give would be PTSD, or some visual aid, public ruin on PTSD. So as a staff member, a way that you could consider covert hypnosis to be employed, and it very much would be, because all of the techniques that L. Ron Hubbard talks about in his lecture series and in his HCOP bulletins, technical documents, auditing procedures, nearly all of it is pseudoscience. It's relying on some unknowable source of information causing your problems bubbling up to the surface. And in that way, it is completely unscientific, and therefore cannot be proven. And that's not to say that if you incorporate or think about or relate some of the earlier videos, like belief, perseverance, or any of those.
The confirmation bias videos that are in the 2017 Chronicle playlist, well, they're curated, but they're not really curated. I haven't gone through and done an analysis of them, but I watched them this morning. Belief, perseverance, and confirmation bias sort of reinforce each other. And there's a lot to be said about that, but that ties into this. So, I will likely be doing the confirmation bias ones, but if you want more information about it, and like this feels like you're not really getting what I'm trying to say in the video, then you might want to go check those out.
Other Kaigo videos.
All of these were actually suggestions from a subscriber who just made a big long post one time. It was like, I'm really curious, and it's very specific stuff. It's 420 here, by the way, Willie. And very specific stuff that I believe she was noticing about as I made the videos. I was going through different states of like panic, paranoia, fear, not just due to Scientology, but due to divorce, access to the kids, work problems, health problems, and recovery problems from all of those things, plus the physical recovery.
These are pieces that sort of fit together, and so neurolinguistic programming is, while it's not at all a bona fide science, it can be practiced and it can be done, and it is practiced and done. Once this state is at a heightened peak, the hypnotist can then talk about that state relating to a concept like an unsuspecting subject's name or a metaphor. The subject will suddenly be unaware of his or her name or metaphor on questioning. So the purpose of covert hypnosis is to shut down or at least reduce the amount of analytical mind in a person. This may be achieved fairly quickly by someone with practice, and when by practice, you practice this in one way or another as a staff member. And that's why I said that public ruin.
I just remembered that when I made this video, I hadn't been getting good sleep. My legs hurt really bad. I'm leaning on my right leg because my Achilles had been torn, and I was walking, but I had to really take it easy. So standing for longer periods of time was kind of a pain in the ass. Hurt.
PTSD. It's a real.
You can see the pain in my face. Like I know that watching this that I was in pain while I was doing this.
Really easy way to get a public to respond and sit down with you so that you can do a ruin cycle on them on something that they're PTS on in order to improve their life. But it's all coming from this unconscious source, right? Which we can't verify even exists or even know what it is.
This is the best I can translate here is this relates to Scientology, because all of these videos that Kavago requested were specific questions about things. And one of them was covert hypnosis, and so in doing some research and reading about it, and at the time I still had my psychology books from what was my last year in college. I went to college 4 times, so it's hard to remember. It might have been 2017 was the last time I enrolled. So the reg cycle, the part where you get someone in and agree to do services, the registrar is sort of tapping the unknown, the unknowable, the abyss, or the id, as some people have called it, in you. And then using a technique that is called Neurolinguistic Programming, and the definition earlier where you can, let's see here, where are we at? We're there, timestamp 558, it's going to be somewhere around here. A state of forgetfulness may be elicited by talking about what it feels like to be in that state of manner, basically any state of manner or mannerism that implies that the other person is currently experiencing it. In other words, you can the registrar, sort of like a gypsy voodoo priestess kind of vibe, but it's in this corporate setting that seems like logical and scientific and whatever. So it's the early stages of the suggestive behavior before you get someone into a situation where you can then do something like TRs, which Tug and I demonstrated how that works. We're breaking down boundaries very quickly. So back to 558.
Very unscientific. It's language that you use that means nothing really. So main components and core concepts. Subjectivity is a core concept because we experience the world subjectively, thus, this is taken from Wikipedia. We experience the world subjectively, thus we create subjective representations of our experience. These subjective representations of experience are constituted in terms of 5 senses and language. That is to say, our subjective conscious experience is in terms of traditional senses of vision, audition, tactition, olfaction, and gustation, such that when we, for example, rehearse an activity in our head, or recall an event or anticipate the future, we will see images or hear sounds or taste flavors, or feel tactile sensations, and smell odors. And so I'm going to...
Hallucinations are, I'm not going to say they're commonly reported, but I mean, they're not uncommon for people undergoing auditing or TR training or any of the training stuff. Even the student hat has produced strange hallucination type phenomenon.
Skip a lot of that, but I will say, in regards to that subjectivity, an auditor is not objective at all. It's a completely subjective process. You are a subject, and the auditor is auditing you and interrogating you and asking you questions and possibly implanting certain metaphors. And this would be an example of someone like Marty Rathbun, who was very skilled at auditing, very, very able to control and manipulate people. The same could be said for anyone who has had any auditing training or TR's training. Because the odds are, if they've had any of that training, they have used that training on other people, and thus they have learned from their mistakes. What the degree to which they're a good or bad manipulator is completely dependent on that person and that individual's innate ability to be social, in my experience. So the more of a social person you indoctrinate into Scientology, the more subjectively they will approach people and be successful in doing so. Essentially implanting ideas. Auditors are very good at that. Implanting an idea in a session by an unknown force, that unknown variable. When they look at the meter, they may see a read or not, but the fact that they tell you they saw a read, what was that? Which is a TR in itself. What was that? Then it gets you to introvert and to think. And the way that we think is through vision, audition, tactition, olfaction, and gestation, in addition to thoughts. So, well, that's what creates them. So we're trying to think of things in auditing that are affecting us or have affected us, but the auditor is implanting something of absolutely no value. It's just a zero. It's just a what is that? And that what is that can then trigger all sorts of manifestations in your mind.
I think a better way to say it now would be it can, it's able to induce a lot of different pathologies and somatics through the mind when when the auditor says, "What is that?" You're on the cans. Whether you're in, I mean, everything essentially in audit is interrogations. So, but the sec checking is a special kind of interrogations that are like handwritten programs, essentially. In addition to the standard break a person down A to E or A to J, there's different lists that they run. They're designed to get you thinking in a specific, non-specific way, criticizing your own inner thoughts, over-imagining things. It induces all of these very dizzying, disorienting states from which a person, and I'm saying in the video that auditors are trained manipulators. They're not necessarily they're like the tool of the manipulator in some cases, and because if you look from a top-down perspective in the executive world of Scientology, even on a mission level, because we had two executives at our mission that really did examine the whole situation and had information on every person. And so they were really the ones, in addition to other executives and auditors, that were planning and shaping a person's mental state to a point to where they would be willing to, either join the Sea Org. Mostly it was about money, but how to get and extract the most money and how to get people into that state and even people around them supportive of that state and sort of spread it. It's almost like a virus, but yeah. But inevitably things go wrong, and that's what the ethics stuff is for. There's so many layers to this. It's, again, the confirmation bias videos are good as a reference point for this, but let's go on.
So the next bullet point would be consciousness. NLP is predicated on the notion that consciousness is bifurcated, which means split, into a conscious component and an unconscious component, which is way, way old Freudian and Neo-Freudian ideas.
Yeah, and I'm not just trying to dismiss them. I think it's more that I'm in pain and I'm just trying to get through. When you're in pain, you get moody? Like, I was in pain. When you have chronic pain too, it's just like miserable.
The separation of conscious and unconscious, in this case Scientology and Dianetics, is the reactive mind. You have your conscious mind, which is what they call the file clerk, and then you have your unconscious mind, which is your bank. The bank is full of horrible, horrible things, and it always tells you to do the wrong things at the wrong times, and it's the reason for you ever wanting to consider leaving Scientology or not want anyone else to do Scientology. Another method, or another bullet point here, learning. Neurolinguistic processing utilizes an imitative method of learning.
Don't you want to live in a WOG world? Wow. Okay. Next one. So that was the first one, 11 minutes. And then the second one is about 20 minutes. So let's do this one, modeling. Do you want to live in a WOG world? You want to live in WOG world? Yeah, I know it's racy and inappropriate. Yeah.
Be able to codify and reproduce an exemplar's expertise in any domain of activity.
Let's go back. Okay, here we go. Part 2, modeling.
That is claimed to be able to codify and reproduce an exemplar's expertise in any domain of activity. Brain and sensory nervous system, Important part of the modification process is a description of the sequence of sensory linguistic representations of the subjective experience of the exemplar doing the execution of the expertise.
Okay, I just lost myself, so let's go back again. Jesus Christ. Okay. Let's go just a little slower.
Be able to codify and reproduce an exemplar's expertise in any domain of activity. Brain and sensory nervous system. Important part of the modification process is a description of the sequence of sensory linguistic representations of the subjective experience of the exemplar doing the execution of the expertise.
Okay. I don't understand why some sources have to speak in those terms. Like, it's fine for like giving a really good description, but it's nice to have a shorter version of that. And the short version of that is the exemplar is basically the auditor who is putting these commands. It's talking about implanting and the like being the implant or thought, be the how it's rejected or accepted through the means of subjectivity. And everyone has their own subjectivity, as I described earlier. When you get into auditing, you get into a registration cycle. Everyone is taught and told on staff and in the Sea Org that they are ultimately an auditor like Ron. So every cycle that they do, they employ the TRs, they employ all these things, and it, as in the first video, in that first definition, inferring states of manner or manners of being, are constantly not only physical barriers like in the TRs are pushed to the limit or have no limit. Then you're with this, it's coming from every person, quote, terminal in an organization, are also pushing those boundaries so far into your own subjectivity. That's what that thing said. Yeah, I know it's it hurts my brain too. Like, I'm starting to get a headache. There's 13 minutes left. I'm gonna kind of get through it.
To me, as a Scientologist, is that when you're on staff and you get removed from post or relocated to another post, that other person will then essentially, instead of really teaching you, they're modeling you after them. Like a junior on post may be modeled after their senior to do the exact same job. So here's an interesting side note. Depression, you'll see a lot of happy Scientologists, or what they seem to be happy. And indeed they may be so. Studies show that sleep restriction has some potential, and this is all inclusive when I'm talking about the staff experience. I'm not talking about the public Scientologist experience. I'm talking about the staff.
And I'm not so sure they're that different anymore. Just different scales. It's the same stuff.
Sleep deprivation is something that's an ongoing thing, and it never ends. It helps to keep you in a state where your left brain cannot function, so that you can accept these ideas very willingly, without a lot of force, without a lot of using your logical mind, your left brain, to do the thinking for you. It shuts down critical thinking, in other words. So Chris Shelton's videos and the title of his channel, Critical Thinker at Large, it makes perfect sense, because as he got out of the cult, his left brain began working again. So studies show, but
I'm gonna just say Chris worked some crazy ass hours. I believe he's done 36 hours, like, you call them shifts, whatever, but worked for 36 hours straight, at least a couple of times, but regularly working, same kind of hours that most staff would, 12 to 16 hour days.
Depression and how some of these neurolinguistic processes can actually reduce depression. Studies show that sleep restriction has some potential in the treatment of depression. Those who suffer from depression tend to have earlier occurrences of REM sleep with an increased number of rapid eye movements. Therefore, monitoring patients' EEG and awakening them during occurrences of REM sleep appears to have a therapeutic effect. So when I was talking about John ringing the bells or waking us up or spraying us with water to wake us up, and we were in REM sleep, we're exhausted, we go to sleep, it's like...
So, there was some video where I talked about the building of the Melrose mission. Towards the end, whenever it was we were getting pushed, the target was getting pushed closer and closer, like, oh, we're going to open it in November. No, we're going to open it in October. No, we're going to open it in September. No, we're going to open it in August. And it was just push, where there was points where we were living in the, a framed up, with no walls, sleeping on sleeping bags, and it's mostly me and John. But towards the end, when the walls got put up and everyone was painting and doing all that stuff, John would do these drills, and I believe he was instructed by Jim Hamry via the ethics officer to make sure we didn't ever really sleep. So John would take buckets of water and toss them on us, and right as we were getting to sleep, we'd be dog-ass tired and be like, okay, we're finally going to get some rest. Y'all been working for however many hours. You're going to sleep all you want. And then an hour in, fire drill, whoosh, and then you're awake, and you're like, well, might as well go and work on that, I forget what the technique is. We used this technique where we had 3 different colors, where you do on a wall with a sponge. And these were really high ceilings, very large pieces, and it took a long time to get done. So sleep deprivation, when he's waking us up in the middle of REM sleep, waking a person shortly after REM sleep can increase production of neural stem cells, aiding in the process of replacing ideas with new ones. Okay, so why is that important? Well, it's important to know because if you're in a state where not only your physical space is being invaded, but your mental space is being invaded, and you're being told, states of being that you're in and overriding your own subjectivity, then you are waking a person regularly after REM sleep starts, it aids the process of replacing ideas with new ones. It's more than torture care. It's this is, yes, it's torture. It's like slave camp stuff. I mean, really, when you look at it in these terms, it's reprogramming, it's brainwashing. It's like, you will do what we want you to do, and that's that. And you believe what you need to believe in order to exist. It's kind of like Mark Turi said the other day. Like, there was this strange on the stream with Chad. There was this strange feeling that, with other people, like it eroded every single social status thing and every kind of racial thing, and it puts everyone on this like base human level. And yes, Julie, yeah, that's really a good point. You need a full cycle for solidifying memories too. Yeah, and it does fuck with your nervous system too, and that was part of it. I'm reading through this really fast in this video. I'm kind of blazing through it, but you know, again, just like the whole purpose of doing these is to sort of like, I was archiving this stuff as I was documenting it for myself and for everyone else, so that later I could go through it and sort of try to make some sense out of it.
REM just kicks in. As many as 60% of patients, when sleep deprived, show immediate recovery, although most relapse the following night. So it is it's an unstable condition, but it does. The effect has been linked to increases in the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which I know that's a big long word, but I'll explain it. It acts as brain-derived neurotrophic factor acts on neurons of the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, helping to support the survival of existing neurons and encourage the growth and differentiation of new neurons and synapses.
So, being awakened in REM sleep increases BDNF, which aids in neurogenesis, the creation of new stem cells.
The brain is active in the hippocampus, the cortex, the basal forebrain, areas vital to learning, memory, and higher thinking. It's also expressed in the retina, the motor neurons, kidneys, saliva, and the prostate.
Now, when I watched this earlier, and I said prostate, I'm like, motherfucker, what I'm going to say. But that was, I had prostate cancer. So, there's almost some truth to Hubbard telling you, don't you read the OT3 materials, you would get sick and stuff. It's not necessarily OT3, but, this is doing physical damage to your body for sure through the nervous system. Because this is not how the mind and the body seem to normally function. It sort of throws it off homeostasis because of the sleep. Everyone knows about the deprivations: sleep deprivation, food deprivation. It throws the body out of homeostatic whack. No homeostatic. What is homeostasis? So, stress and inflammation caused by lack of sleep, lack of food, on the nervous system, through the brain, which everything else that's going on in the brain, total invasion of space, similar to TRs, but on a mental, psychic level. Psychic is the right word. Treatment-resistant depression is a question mark here, because, and that would be true, the depression is sort of suppressed. There are happy Scientologists. They're really happy. It's just how their brain is working. There is no homeostatic center, and so they're just sort of flying off in whatever mental space that they've created that is comfortable for them.
The BDNF itself is important for long-term memory, although the vast majority of neurons in the mammalian brain are formed prenatally. Parts of the adult brain retain the ability to grow new neurons from neural stem cells in the process known as neurogenesis. Neurotrophins are proteins that help to stimulate and control neurogenesis. BDNF.
Okay, I got some questions here. Willie, I was 36. Well, I had it apparently earlier than that, probably 33, 34, and then it wasn't detected until I was about 36. Um, yeah. There we go.
Being one of the most active. There are others, but BDNF is the brain-derived neurotrophic factor is the most active in terms of growing new neurons from stem cells, thusly creating neurogenesis. So if I would relate this scientologically again, there is neurogenesis happening through the modeling process and the sleep deprivation, and that's what sort of like it begins to get easier and easier to justify. It becomes easier and easier to be happier or perceived happiness. Like I said, the depression thing I had no idea about that the sleep deprivation plus being woken up in the middle of REM sleep while you're being sleep deprived can.
Oh, that's the same thing that I had posted earlier. So, I think what I was trying to say is that, is it neurogenic modeling, given the fact that most of the stem cells are created, before you're born? Is it possible to do neurogenic modeling by creating these situations where you are creating a situation where your nervous system starts to try to create new stem cells? Is that a thing? Because if it is, and you are in that situation where you're in a coercive control group, then the then that would seem to be like a modeling type situation. You have all of this information that's constantly being pushed towards you, and physical information and ideas about what's, where there are no boundaries. Your subjectivity is being taken over, and if you can create that situation, neurogenic modeling is, in my mind, and I'm no genius, but like, it's theoretically possible. For a long time, it was not believed that new brain cells could grow. And I can't tell you the exact type of brain, because there's lots of different types of cells in the brain. But brain cells can be regrown. Maybe not all the types of them, but it was accepted that they didn't grow. So if you damaged your brain, it was not going to regrow anything. Wow, man. Well, it doesn't seem appropriate to call you Commodore, because now you've humanized yourself. Heart goes out to you, Commodore. Damn, Willie. Yeah, I mean, cancer is a bitch, ain't it? Like, it's like everyone knows someone that's close that it's happened to. I feel very fortunate that I survived. Caught it early. Early detection is key. Early detection is key. Don't be like my aunt who does so much for everybody but doesn't take care of herself and ignores, and even will tell doctors, no, I'm fine, when she knows she doesn't feel fine. She knows what's up. She's got a background in nursing. I've got two aunts like that. So, yeah, that doesn't do yourself any favors. Early detection is key. And don't be, even if they roll your eyes at you, because they hear that a lot. You know, I think I got cancer and it's nothing. But don't take any chances.
Decrease the amount of brain-derived neurotropic factors in your central nervous system and your nerve cells, and affect the production of neural stem cells. So, having said all of that,
yeah, so there are some neural stem cells that can be produced, which is quite fascinating, and I'd love to go back and revisit some of this stuff, or maybe find some newer textbooks about this, because if I would theorize that it's a survival mechanism. Like if you are being subjected to sleep deprivation, food deprivation, sensory overload, or sensory deprivation, and these commands and this, like, overriding of your own subjectivity, that you're just like, it may be a survival thing to where your brain and your neuroplasticity changes because of the constant stimulation of your nervous system in that way.
the last thing I'm going to go over, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video so far. If not, let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Thought-terminating cliches. The thought-terminating cliche, also known as a thought stopper, are words or phrases that discourage critical thought and meaningful discussion about a given topic. They are typically short, generic truisms that offer some seemingly simple answers to complex questions, or that distract attention away from other lines of thinking. They're often sayings that have been embedded in the culture, folk wisdom, and are tempting to say because they often sound true or are good. They often sound true or good, or like the right thing to say. Some examples are stop thinking so much. Here we go.
Stop thinking so much. Thought terminating cliches. I believe this is one of the I don't know for sure, but I know that Doug liked this video. Dawn, yeah, I don't know if that's a joke or not, but if you are still not getting enough REM sleep, then your BDNF may be elevated, in which case your brain, depending on your age, may grow some neural stem cells. That's about all I could say.
Again, what effect do my actions have? And in Scientology, bank restimulation. Yeah.
So, thought-terminating cliches was another thing Kaivago wanted to know about, and so the parallel in Scientology would be bank restimulation and things that come up in the reactive mind that are thought-determined. I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, or bank restimulation in the sense where you were unconscious, like they show in the video, or there was two medics in the van, and the one was talking about, I'm going to leave my girlfriend. Yeah, life's too short, whatever. And then later the dude dumps his girlfriend because a firefighter said it while he was unconscious.
So anytime you have a negative thought, anytime that depression starts to seep in, anytime your sleep deprivation and your body and your nervous system starts to tell you, stop, this is enough, you've had enough. You have all these other ways, and this is just one, thought-terminating cliches, thought-stopping, bank restimulation in the case of Scientology. You have that to reinforce. There are so many reinforcers when you are on staff. that it's no wonder that many people say that it takes a decade or more to fully recover mentally, psychologically, sometimes maybe even physically from Scientology.
So, Kara, if you're still here, yeah, that's probably why your head was hurting, because all of these things is so much, right? And yeah, it takes a long time to recover, to peel the layers of that onion.
So, Robert J. Lifton popularized the term thought-terminating cliche, and I did want to mention his name because the title of his book in 1961 was Thought Reform in the Psychology of Totalism, a study of brainwashing in China. And I'm not sure if he talked about mainly the thought control methods, which I've discussed here before, but the thought-terminating cliche is a reinforcer that works well with the topic that we were discussing in neurolinguistic programming, because it's language in your mind. You start to separate the file clerk from the bank, and then you start to visualize it using all of your senses that we have, being constantly triggered and stimulated and poked and prodded and reinforced. There are some side effects that seem to maybe sort of a protection mechanism that the body has, a defense mechanism maybe that keeps you from being completely depressed all the time. But the sudden waking during REM sleep doesn't account for a natural phenomenon. So I guess it could if you were a caveman or something and you're constantly on the lookout for a saber cat trying to eat you alive. But that almost is what it feels like when you work for the Church of Scientology. So with that, I just had band practice. My left hand is shaking from not having eaten and playing the piano for 3 hours. We had an excellent band practice. Please check out the Patreon. I appreciate
It's not a thing anymore. What else is there?
I was in the church, attacked the church, and this was before.
Here, let me hide it so that no one gets upset about it.
The OT3 materials were really out there and leaked and in the public eye. I remember it being on staff. I remember there being sort of like a very protective bubble inside the church at PAC base, trying to control the public, control the PCs, keep them from watching TV, keep them inside, on course, on purpose, on source, what they say. And Anonymous, even years after I had left the church, I still had the idea in my head that they were a terrorist organization. And these days, I see them more as helping than hurting. They may hurt. They may have done some hurtful things in the past. We all make mistakes, but I see Anonymous as a positive force in the world today, exposing childhood predators and corrupt politicians. And I actually like it a little more than I like WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks is just a little too seedy political for me. I like the anonymous message most of the time. And my first patron was a naughty mouse. So I like to think that Anonymous is watching me. And
yeah, alright, so that's Neurolinguistic Programming. What a bunch of shit, right? I have a song to end it off on just a silly happy mood. Yeah, that was kind of a mind fuck, but it was only 2 videos and now it's done. Here we go. This is my cousin, Little Emmanuel Jr. On the album that was wrote and written by him, called "Swear" from Grand Chenier. A song called the Hypo Christian Waltz. May I turn the sound off and then play the song? What's wrong with me? Me.
I quit my drinking, and then I quit smoking. I give up running around, on my wife, and I give up toking. I changed my religion, now I'm too good to die. I even quit cursing, I swear, but I'm starting to lie. There'll be no more gambling, no nights on no town. Been buckling my seatbelt, hey, I really slowed down. I go to church on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I never get home. Stopped all my sinning, but I'm starting to lie. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. La 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 la. Come on, everybody knows the la-las. La 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 la. I quit my drinking, and then I quit smoking. I give up running around on my wife, and I give up toking. I changed my religion, now I'm too good to die. Even quit cussing, I swear, but I'm starting to lie. Haggard, I'm a man of my word, but I'm starting to lie.
Well, that's Little Emmanuel Jr. And I'll figure out the next one to do. It was nice chatting with y'all. It was a sort of a brain fuck of a subject. But it's done now, and we'll see everybody later. Nice visiting with y'all, as always. See you,